Trust and the M.L Sondhi Institute for Asia-Pacific Affairs. I extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has gathered here this afternoon, and especially thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who has come down from the cool of Dharamsala to graciously accept the 2016 M.L Sondhi Prize for International Politics.
This must be one of the most poignant occasions for the M.L Sondhi Memorial Trust. During his long career as a diplomat, as a politician, as an academic, Professor Sondhi pursued many causes. But none of these matched in terms of passion, commitment, and dedication with his championship of the Tibetan cause. I have scanned Professor Sondhi's lectures and writings over a period of 3 decades. Even as events unfolded, he remained consistent in his view that Tibet was the central issue in Sino-Indian relations, and the solutions offered by His Holiness the Dalai Lama represents the best opportunity for the future of the region. It's interesting that in 2002, Professor Sondhi constituted a study group to assess the future of India-China relations and the implications for peace in the region. With the title India, Tibet and China, published somewhere around 2003, the report of the study group analyzed the letters addressed by His Holiness to the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi between 1985 and 1987. Professor Sondhi's brief commentaries on those letters reflect his disappointment that the Prime Minister and the Government of India ignored the deeply serious and thoughtful advice given by His Holiness. Professor Sondhi credibly concluded that all Prime Ministers of India, from Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru to Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao, with the exception, he writes, of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, were complicit in following a policy of appeasement towards China. Now, some of you here may wonder what His Holiness the Dalai Lama has got to do with a prize which is about politics. Well, interestingly, in that little booklet on India, China, and Tibet, I found that Professor Sondhi has analyzed the geopolitical thinking of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, including his thoughts on nuclear proliferation. He came to the conclusion that His Holiness's thinking on politics and international affairs matched the views of the school of realpolitik. According to him, His Holiness followed von Clausewitz insofar as power politics is concerned, but remained confident that eventually the middle path of Buddhism will prevail. The report concluded, and I quote, "The Chinese have a historic opportunity to make progress towards peace in the lifetime of the Dalai Lama. If they reject his offer, another opportunity may not come their way." The report concludes that India and China are both at the crossroads of their destiny, and Tibet holds the key to both. Unquote. That was a wise advice given by Professor Sondhi in 2003, and I would say it remains unchanged even today. There are small signals that the government of India may be finally changing its policy on Tibet. Earlier initiatives about inhibitions by the government of India about giving prominence to the meetings of His Holiness with Indian dignitaries seem to have disappeared. The stout defense of the visit of His Holiness last week to Arunachal Pradesh and to Tawang, to me, was a rare affirmation by India of its sovereignty and its strategic autonomy. India has also, in the last 6 years, dropped any reference to the One China policy in all our joint communiques and statements with China. These are straws in the wind, and I cherish the hope that, like thousands of other friends of Tibet, the government of India is finally paying attention to the wise counsel of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness came to India under tragic circumstances 58 years ago when he was just 22 years of age. India has been blessed with his radiant presence on our soil. He is 81 years now, and I speak, I think, for all of you and for millions of others in wishing him long life and good health to pursue his threefold mission of leading the Tibetan people, guiding the Buddhists of the world, and working for a better world through harmony amongst all religions. This occasion calls for felicitations, but not to His Holiness. I think the felicitations are due to the M.L Sondhi Foundation for bringing the spirit and the memory of Professor Sondhi to his greatest political and spiritual mentor, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you.
I request Shri Lalit Mansingh ji to present a shawl to His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Thank you. Seems too long. I think 3 persons together.
Thank you.
Now, I request Madam Sondhi to present the plaque to His Holiness.
It's a little heavy.
I also request Madam Sondhi to hand over the awards check to His Holiness.
It was said of Goswami Tulsidas that Goswami Tulsidas was not famous because he wrote poetry, but poetry was famous because Tulsidas wrote it. So also in the case of the Dalai Lama, in accepting the award, everybody who has received this award in the past and everybody who will receive this award in the future will be able to say, I am getting the award which the Dalai Lama got.
Very good.
He is what the Japanese would call one of the world's living treasures. And his moral authority is visible every time. He has no army, he has no air force, he has no aircraft carriers. But when he goes from one place to the other or says one sentence to the other, the whole Chinese government reacts. So I am reminded in this about Mahatma Gandhi. So in an article, Vinoba Bhave has written that there will be a Congress meeting going on. In those days, no loudspeakers and so on, big congregation. And people in the end, they are drinking tea, somebody is smoking, somebody is talking, and Pandit Nehru will shout. And they will keep quiet for 2 minutes, and after 5 minutes they will start talking again. Then he will take out he used to have a small baton. He will take out the baton, go down, and and they will then keep quiet for 7 minutes. After that they will start doing again. Then Sardar Patel would be sitting on the dais. Sardar Patel will just tell some of his men that you go there. So when Sardar's people came, everybody kept quiet for 15 minutes. Then they will start again. But when Gandhiji walked in, then automatically a hush will settle on the audience. And if anybody talked on one side, Gandhiji will only do, everybody will keep quiet. That is moral authority. So if he does this, or if he doesn't do this, the Chinese try to read. What does he mean by doing this? What does he mean by not doing this? His resilience, that in spite of everything that has been visited upon the people and on his own life, he remains cheerful, he remains have goodwill for everybody. And sir, I'm reminded of an interview of yours with the New York Times. The correspondent asked him that there's so much persecution, you have suffered so much, but you are still smiling. So why? How? So he says, you see, the Chinese have taken so much from us. They have destroyed our monasteries. They are trying to erase our religion. They have wiped out our history. So I thought, why should I also give them the peace of my mind? And it is because of him, really, because of this one single individual, that you look at refugees from anywhere. They are always so bitter and so despondent and so pessimistic. But he has kept the spirits of the Tibetan refugees high. And because of him, the issue of Tibet has become a world concern. And actually, when you read what he has written, when you hear his discourses or his commentaries on a text, you see how learned a person he is, and yet how lightly he wears his learning. And I think we underestimate the extent of transformation which he has brought about in Buddhist practices and Buddhist doctrine, and in opening up something which should be really an example to all of us in India, in approaching even his own tradition with an open mind. He's saying that Buddhism must face facts. And if new scientific discoveries are at discord with something written long ago, then we have to adjust to that fact. There is no other leader of any tradition, certainly not of ours, in which case we are so protective of our gods and of our gurus that we do not want to open them for any examination at all. So the openness of his mind is an example for us which we should emulate, and it is also testimony to his great confidence in the tradition, that ultimately even new scientific discoveries will validate the great truths which were discovered by the Buddhist Indian tradition. So therefore the award is richly deserved. It goes without saying, but I want to make a special request to the trustees like Mrs. Sondhi, Vivekanand and Lalit Man Singh. We should also institute another special award. And that is that there is no spiritual leader in the world who has made us laugh as much as the Dalai Lama has made us laugh. Whenever people gather who have heard him, the conversation always comes to what the joke they heard. Sir, just day before yesterday, I was in Bangalore talking to one of our big sociologists and writers, Ramchandra Guha, and he described himself. He said, I'm a very restless person, very nervous person. I'm always anxious about the next thing I have to do. But once I felt I was completely at peace, and that is when I heard the Dalai Lama speak. And in the question and answer period, somebody asked a very long question, very complicated question of how much responsibilities he had and how his family was, and he didn't have money and there was sickness and he was this and that. He said, I can't even now sleep at night. So what is your recommendation? Dalai Lama said, have you tried a drink? Stiff drink. Sound sleep. Happiness in the morning. Then, just now, you were mentioning, sir, about reincarnation. Mrs. Sondhi was mentioning how she first heard the dialogue on reincarnation. There was an exchange that Khushwant Singh wrote about with His Holiness. He was asking him, do you believe in reincarnation? And then what is the proof? And the Dalai Lama said, but some children remember their previous lives. And he was giving arguments for that. For each of them, Khushwant Singh would give something, the opposite argument. And it went on and on. And then the Dalai Lama looked at him and said, Mr. Singh, if I did not believe in reincarnation, I would be out of business. So I congratulate of course the Dalai Lama for receiving the award, for accepting the award, but even more so the foundation for choosing such a worthy person to venerate with the award. And I again renew my plea that there should be a special award for a person who in even our times keeps our spirits so high. Thank you.
Dear respected brothers, sisters, and rest of brothers and sisters, I always stress we are same human being. I truly believe that. I always consider I'm one of the 7 billion human beings. In mysterious level, or reincarnation or something. But obviously, nobody should argue we are same human being. I really feel now time come, we have to stress oneness of 7 billion human beings. Because there's a lot of problems, including killing. Actually, unthinkable. And more sort of, also the serious thing is, with the name of religion, fighting, killing. All major religious tradition is actually a source of compassion. All major religious tradition carry same message. Message of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline. That very thing of causing division, killing. I think our environment is something wrong. Now it is humanity's responsibility to change that. Not through preaching, not through prayer, but through action. In order to carry realistic, holistic action, firstly, we must develop clear vision here. And not only mere just a vision, we need as a determination with optimistic optimism. So I always share, whenever I talk, I give talk, we are same human being. I want happiness, joyfulness, and the rest of the 7 billion human beings, everyone want happy life. So, meantime, many problems, as I briefly mentioned, many problems essentially our own creation. Now some hopeful sign is, according to some scientific sort of research, they make conclusion, basic human nature is more compassionate. So therefore, there is real hope if we make effort, realistically, with determination. I think my lifetime may not achieve, but later part of 21st century could be more peaceful world, more compassionate world, if we make an effort now. So I mentioned, you see, this young boy, when I met, his eyes, very fresh, very nice. So I told him, this young Indian is a generation who can create a better future. In India's case, more compassionate India. And then, like you, millions and millions of young people of the world, say, I usually describe, like your age, I consider I describing generation of 21st century. So, in this century, just the beginning. So if we make effort now, at a systematic way and realistic way, with determination, then I think your later part of your life, you can see better world. The generation of 20th century, we will not see. I think better to say involve difficult world. We may go heaven, relax. So sometimes I really feel, and also you see, telling the generation of 20th century, that means you see people whose age 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It seems to see we create more trouble on this planet. So generation of 20th century. So now, actually, we create a lot of work to solve by these generations of the 21st century. So, in a sense, we really need a sense of oneness of humanity. A Tibet issue, all these. This is too much emphasis. My nation, my culture, my language. So I really admire the European Union's spirit. In the past, many centuries, fighting, killing each other in the name of their sovereignty. Then after Second World War, they realized, now we have to think the common interest and share each other. So the European Union, the spirit of European Union, I think very realistic, and I think I think very, very important. So I always say telling the spirit of European Union eventually, you see, should create African Union. Then a lot of problem, including fighting, killing, I think can reduce. And then a lot of money spent for weapon that can use because of promotion, the farm system and some sort of industries like that. One of my empty dream is Sahara. There plenty of solar energy. Now that we should use solar energy and create electricity. That electricity not use industry or some other thing, but what's it? Desalination, seawater turned to sweet water. Then I think a large area of Sahara can be Greenland. I think billion, I think 1 or 2 billion human beings life, you see, can provide food on these things. Similarly, Australia, last few years, I'm telling, Australia should make effort from all sides. You see, each decade, 100 kilometers or 200 inward, and planting more trees, and again, you see, use seawater like that. So we have the technology because of desalination. So that is wonderful. Then I think many sort of positive side effect. Seawater can check. No matter global warming, we extensively use seawater. Then I think we can, otherwise it's Calcutta or Shanghai or Tokyo, I think within a few decades may submerge. Right, submerge. So like that. So now time comes, we have to think seriously for promotion of sense of oneness of humanity. Now there, the compassion, sense of concern of others' well-being is the key factor. And with that, sense of global responsibility. I myself, when I think I'm one of the human beings, so when I met people, so no barrier. Immediately become very close. If I stress, I'm Dalai Lama, something very special. Then that sort of was the mental attitude create barrier. Oh. So out of 7 billion human beings, only one Dalai Lama. If I too much emphasis Dalai Lama, then I become lonely person. When I think we human beings, human brothers, sisters, then this side, when I look, human brothers, and beautiful because of younger sisters or brothers. At this side, experienced old brothers, sisters. So then we are same. No need formality, no need of the diplomatic smile. I tell you have some experience. We just express our nature. Right? So now, these days, I am talking. Firstly, we have to work try to educate our younger generation. The warm-heartedness, compassionate sort of mind is not part of religious practice. It's just something very relevant to humanity. If we have more compassionate mind, firstly, your physical health much better. Now some scientists also say the constant fear, constant anger is actually eating our immune system. More compassionate mind, more calm mind, very, very helpful to sustain your immune system. So in this respect, look my face. Now 82-year-old person, seems quite handsome. So some people, some my long-time friend, when we met, they expressed to me, since many years, they say, your face not much change. So then they asked me, what's your secret? Then I, firstly, I jokingly telling, my secret, I don't want to share with other people. Then I seriously explain, nothing. The peace of mind, it really makes differences. Then peace of mind, not because of the lambda through darkness way. I think with darkness way. Not much thinking, not much idea, and comparatively peace. Not that way. My mind quite sharp. The other day in Arunachal, they say one BJP scientist, secretary or something. You see, a few days we become very close friend. Then I told him, each night I spend 9 hours sleep. Then morning, 3 o'clock, wake up, and next for 5 hours meditation. So that meditation sharpening my mind. So with sharp mind, I can I can cheating other people more easily, more wisely. Then since we become quite a friend, a close friendship feeling. So then he responded me, he only 6 hours sleep, so he cannot cheat other people. So the peace of mind, really very important for our physical health. And also, you see, peace of mind, you see, create, I think, the basis of human intelligence properly. Too much emotion, then, you see, because of that creates some kind of, because of the blocks or obstacle, our intelligence objectively look, study, and analyze. So in order to objectively analyze things, our mind must be calm. So therefore, irrespective of whether religious believer or not, human compassion is the key factor which we learned from our mother, from our parent. And as I mentioned earlier, basic human nature is more compassionate. So now, the drawback is existing education system, modern education system, is very much oriented about material value, external value, not much talk about our inner value. So we already now committed with help of some scientists and some educationists. You see, we are trying to enrich existing education system, including some education about our inner value. Strictly follow Indian tradition, secular way, not based on religion, but scientific findings and our common sense and common experience. So I fully committed promotion these things. And then now spent 58 years in this country. So I developed full conviction. Religious harmony is very possible. So some part of the world, as I mentioned earlier, religion also is causing some problem. That due to, because of the narrow-minded. Look wider. Then India is one example. Most populated, democratic, ancient nation. All world majority tradition live together. Occasionally some problem. That is understandable. But overall, I think wonderful religious harmony exists in this country over, I think, 2,000 years, to 3,000 years. So therefore, it is possible, religious harmony. So I fully committed promotion that. So these, you see, my sort of today commitment possible because the Chinese communist sort of suppression inside Tibet, and I escaped. If I still in Bodala or Nobulinga, I think I may be more orthodox Lama. because you see, come to India, political asylum, then you see, find a lot of opportunity meeting with people, particularly scientists. Nowadays, I describe myself half Buddhist monk, half scientist. And actually, I think some of you may know. So one of Buddha's statement, you see, mentioned, "Oh, my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." That's a very scientific way. So some of the Nalanda master rejected Buddha's own teaching. You see, they mention certain Buddhist teaching, some text, some sutra. They mentioned, if you accept literally what this particular sutra mentioned, then it goes against the reason. Therefore, we must reject that. That's quite unique. So, I have liberty to reject some of our traditional belief, such as Mount Meru. I publicly now reject. Yeah. Obviously, I think almost daily, I think thousands of people, you see, flying from India to Europe or India to Japan and then America, Canada, like that. So nobody see Mount Meru. So therefore, you see, although it's a certain Buddhist text like Abhidhamma Koshakarika wrote by Bosuband, it's a very detailed explanation, the height and the size of Mount Meru. And the Kalachara Tantra also is mentioned that. So, with respect, I reject. So we have that liberty. Good. So then, finally, of course, I prefer some question and answer, more sort of interaction. I prefer that. And then, lastly, when I heard the late Professor Sondhi's a memorial or something, I reflect those days. He really showing genuine concern about Tibet. And some of his sort of idea he mentioned at that time. At that time I felt, oh, that's unrealistic. Now seems some of his idea is, I think, truly far-sighted sort of ideas. So he, I think, one of the great supporter of Tibet issue. And every supporters of Tibetan issue is, I usually describe, not pro-Tibetan, but rather pro-justice. Since our problem is very much based on truth and compassion. I think since 8th century, Nalanda master Shantarakshita invited by Tibetan emperor. Since then, we follow sincerely, seriously, they follow Nalanda tradition. Mainly through study and practice. Study, average 20-30 years, rigorous study. The root text, memorize by heart. Then commentary, wrote by Nalanda masters. Each word explained by teacher. And then use extensively logic, through logical way, debate. So that's, I think, unique among whole Buddhist world. So therefore, you see, Tibetan Buddhist tradition is truly the Nalanda tradition. So, preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is not only concern for 6 million Tibetan people, but the whole, the Buddhist world. And then also, basic Buddhist way of approach is, I think, very, very open. So now many scientists also now showing a genuine interest. So for example, quantum physics, very similar that of Buddhist philosophy, mathematical philosophy. I think one time, I think many of you knows Raja Ramana. Raja Ramana, you see, told one occasion or meeting, the quantum physics in the world, in modern world, something new concept. But in this country, 2000 years ago, already developed that concept. So it is true. So like that, and then I think the India really can make significant contribution for inner peace, not through prayer, as I mentioned earlier, not through prayer, not through belief, but fuller knowledge about the whole system of our emotion, our mind. Then, you see, we better equipped to tackle our destructive emotions, such as anger. So these knowledge, not only ancient Indian knowledge, but also relevant to today's world. So I'm trying to make the contribution as much as from our sort of experience, our knowledge, which come from India. And then, meantime, now last, you see, 1 or 2 years, I now fully convinced now within this country, the ancient Indian knowledge must revive. So then you feel grateful to Chela. We are Chela. You are Guru. So once you know how much precious thing we Chela get, then we are not only refugee, but eventually become guru. The ancient guru become Chela. So in any way, so that I think around 400 million Chinese now follow Buddhism. Now Buddhist population. Now I think among world, different country, I think China is the biggest number Buddhist population. And many of these Buddhists gradually realize Tibetan Buddhist tradition is authentic Nalanda tradition. So many of them following, eager to follow Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So Government of India and many of our friends, including late Professor Sondhi, they immensely help to us, small refugee community. Now, after more than 50 years, now situation becomes such. Now we can make some significant contribution, not only India, also eventually in China. So like that. So think, Kasoda, remember, Kasoda, review these past a few decades, and then like Professor Sondhi's and Pandit Nehru, these are very, very kind to us. So we never forget. So quite logical. And our relation is relation between Guru and Chela. So logically, when Chela facing some problem, Guru have some moral responsibility. So you've done that. Thank you.
So with me is Thupten London, who is the creative director at the country's leading ad agency, Ogilvy. London, you've come here to listen to His Holiness the Dalai Lama speak on compassion and secular ethics. What is that one takeaway message from today's event?
So actually, it's a very great opportunity for me to come over here and then get the blessings of His Holiness Dalai Lamas, and a living legend, as many of people today here mention about the living treasures of the world. So I'm being a Tibetan also, I feel really blessed that, listening to Dalai Lama and direct connections with him. I always feel proud when I talk to my Indian colleague about Dalai Lama. And sometimes, in my offices also, whenever something about Tibet issues, whenever Dalai Lama's pictures comes up, they used to call me, see, you're Dalai Lama. And sometimes they used to say, don't worry, brother, he's not only your Dalai Lama, he's our Dalai Lama. So in fact, and his message on compassion and everything has become worldwide. I think there's no any two-way about it actually. He's very focused and spreading the joys, happiness, compassions. And I think in my day-to-day life, I think his virtues and his teachings help me tackle my day-to-day life problems a lot. I mean, in terms of fast changing, advertising world, there are lots of pressures on our day-to-day life. But then what happens is as Dalai Lama was saying, keep calm. If there is a way to tackle that problem, then face it and tackle the problem. If there's nothing to do about it, then we can just let it go away kind of. So I think it was very honored to listen to Dalai Lama. I've been listening to Dalai Lama for a long, long time. Today in the presence, I got this opportunity to listen to him. Otherwise, following YouTubes everywhere. I mean, it's not just me. I think the whole world is following him. It's really nice to be here, actually. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, London. So, Raki, having listened to His Holiness the Dalai Lama being referred to as the moral authority over many things, the chief guest Arun Shourie, former minister in the government of India, referred to His Holiness as this one individual having the highest form of moral authority. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I would like to say that there is a consensus about his moral compass and the moral authority that he commands, which is why anything that he says and everything that he says is so simple and is as transparent as water. I think the Dalai Lama's teachings are going to be more and more relevant to this world which continues to strive, which continues to be at strive, and continues to look for ways to find peace and harmony.
You've listened to His Holiness being referred to as the living treasure in today's world. So what are your thoughts on this?
I have been experiencing meetings with His Holiness from 1999 onwards. At least I can count three times when I have had the good fortune of listening to him. And if I put in today's world, in today's context of today's world, we have so much of pressure, so much of daily existential issues. You know, but our problems compared are very small in comparison to what he's facing, and his infectious optimism and cheerfulness is so good that every time I walk away feeling much lighter. So I think he's a living treasure because he's giving a whole generation, a few generations of Tibetans hope and keeping their spirits high. So, which is not an easy task to do, considering the task that he has to face is not easy. So, yes, I completely agree that he's a living treasure, and his infectious optimism is fantastic.
So, Professor, having listened to His Holiness talk about injecting secular ethics in modern university curriculum and studies, what are your thoughts on this, and how do you think we can best carry his message forward and put a more practical component to it?
I was very powerfully impressed by whatever His Holiness said about secular ethics and the need for educating students in what you call universal ethical values. Because I teach in a leftist university where the students are very bright, but where they are bereft in a sense of the values, the spiritual values, which really help them during times of stress. So the result is that we see students going into deep depression, attempting suicide, which is for me an extremely tragic thing. And when I raised this question with His Holiness, he said that you should educate them in inner values. And I really hope that I can take this message back to my Vice Chancellor, and I pray that with the grace of His Holiness Dalai Lama, we are able to start a center or a school where you can actually deal with issues of secular ethics, inner values, and spiritual values, which can help them to stabilize their own lives and lead healthier, happier, more joyous lives.